Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Set Off Podcast. I'm your host, Grant Chachere. Oh boy, do we have a lot of great things to talk about today. I went to the women's game last night. I covered it. I was up in the press box, and man, that was a great experience that I had up there at the PMAC. There's over 13,000 fans in the PMAC to watch women's basketball between LSU and South Carolina. Fantastic game between the top-ranked South Carolina Gamecocks and the number 9 LSU Fighting Tigers. It was a great matchup. I'm going to talk about that. I'm also going to talk about the men's game that happened on Wednesday, and that was a great game as well. But then also we're going to talk about Kayshon Boutte's situation, which is absolutely hilarious. It's sad, but it's absolutely hilarious. And then I'm also going to talk a little bit about LSU hiring Slade Nagle as this new special teams coordinator and tight ends coach. And they finally completed their entire staff. And I'll give my thoughts about that. But first, let's start off with the women's basketball game, man. What a fantastic game that was. LSU, they were in control for most of the game the first half. I mean, they looked fantastic. Flau'jae looked fantastic. Angel was awesome. And Izamaro probably had her coming out game. I mean, she's been great all year, but to do it in front of a national audience like that, it was fantastic. Felt pretty good to see her perform the way she did. I mean, she was awesome. And Izamaro, she actually finished with 16 points. 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and she had 2 blocks as well. I mean, she was fantastic on both sides of the ball. Michaela Williams, despite it wasn't her best game, you could tell that she's a star. I mean, she was like her playmaking ability is one of the things that kept LSU in the game, despite her not having the best night shooting wise. But she led the way with 6 assists for a team high 6 assists for LSU, but and really looked like LSU was going to pull away. But South Carolina, they're extremely talented team. LSU was up by 11 at one point in the first quarter. I think it was the first half, and the first quarter they're up by 11, and South Carolina was able to fight back. Chloe Kitts, and the reason why it was Chloe Kitts in the first half, she scored, I think it was like 10 points in the first half. And she was one of the reasons why they were in the game for a pretty long time. And then also, surprisingly, LSU out-rebounded them in the first half, 17-10. And they also had like seven offensive rebounds, which led to putback points for LSU. And they just looked like they were in control for the most part. I mean, South Carolina, guys, you have to realize this is the number 1 team in terms of rebounds in the country. So the fact that LSU was able to out-rebound them by a good margin in the first half was pretty surprising. And the first half ended up being 41-36. And speaking of, Camila Cardozo only had 3 points. Tahina I think it's Pau. Yeah, she only had 3 points in the first half. Bree Hall only had 3 points in the first half as well. She didn't really do anything. So you had 3 of their star players were completely shut down in the first half. I mean, LSU's defense was fantastic, but the second half unfortunately for LSU didn't go their way. LSU led for most of the second half. I mean, but South Carolina in the fourth quarter, they put on a show. So in the fourth quarter, let me pull this up. So in the fourth quarter, where is it? So in the here we go. So in the fourth quarter, Flau'jae had 9 points in the first half, but in the second half she only had 1 point, and in the fourth quarter she didn't score a single point. And Bree Hall, Tahina Pau, they came out of nowhere, and they started scoring. Bree Hall made 3 over 5 shots in the fourth quarter, including the go-ahead 3-point. Well, actually, she had 2 go-ahead threes. The first one she made, she drilled it, and then Haley Van Lith came back the next possession and drilled the game tying three. But then Bree Hall was wide open in the corner with under a minute left to go in the game, and she drilled the three to put South Carolina ahead for good, 73-70, and then LSU missed their next basket, and then it'd be 75-70. But a big reason for why, and final score was 76-70. But a big reason why LSU faltered in the fourth quarter was Angel got fouled out. Angel Reese was a baller going in that. I mean, she finished with 15 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists, and 2 blocks and the steal. I mean, she was a beast down low, and she really shut down Camila Cardozo. But Camila Cardozo in the second half, she scored 8 points. And was it? Yeah, 8 points. And there was nothing. I mean, and that large part of that was that Angel got fouled out. Actually, no, not. Well, actually, she scored most of those points when Angel was in the game. But like for South Carolina, the reason why they're able to come back was just the absence of Angel in those last 4 minutes. I mean, they had a lot of rebounds, man. I mean, South Carolina ended up out rebounding LSU at the end of the game, 39-37. I mean, after there was a 7 rebound difference at the end of the first half, and then they also had in the second half. Pull this up for you guys. They had. Yeah, well, in the fourth quarter, they had 4 second chance points. They had not 12 total rebounds compared to LSU's 4, including 3 offensive rebounds. So, I mean, South Carolina was just controlling the paints, man, especially in the fourth quarter when Angel was out. So, I mean, I'm not saying that LSU would have beat South Carolina if Angel was in the game, but it was a large factor in why they faltered. And that was just, I mean, that's one of those things. It was such a great game. It's one of those things where, one team had to win and one team had to lose, and you just kind of hope both teams won. But in reality, I think they did. Just like, I mean, if there's one, like, yeah, South Carolina had the dub and they're the win on the win-loss column, and LSU has the L in that column as well. The biggest winner was women's college basketball, but women's basketball period. I mean, there's a lot of praise coming from Twitter from some of the biggest sports figures, regardless of sport, not even just basketball, but just football. Like basketball, you had KD coming out and praising the girls. I mean, there's a lot of NBA. He's one of many that were praising the girls. Kirk Herbstreit, who's a big-time college football announcer. I don't know if you don't even know why I had to say who he is, because I think everyone who watches this podcast knows who Kirk Herbstreit is. He was praising, hey, everyone turn to ESPN, come watch this great basketball game. It was fantastic to see all the praise come from different figures, not only in the sports world, but like just well-known figures in any industry. So it was fantastic to see, and to kind of to kind of share what the atmosphere is like. I mean, there was over 13,000 fans there. I think it broke the record. Maybe, I know it was like really high, but College Game Day was there. They opened the doors like. Usually they open the doors an hour before the game, but they opened the doors an hour and a half before the game because College Game Day was there. The fact that College Game Day was there shows you how big of a matchup it really was. Let me pull this up for you guys. This is from my Twitter. So here we go. I'm gonna pull this up for you. So this is kind of shared with you guys. So this is from the 457 Media. This is the account I run, which the Set It Off podcast is under 457 Media. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and then also make sure you like this video and subscribe to 457 Media on YouTube when it's pulled up. But this is what this thing was like. All this white right here is all the shirts. That's how many people showed up. I mean, it was a packed house, and and I was going to show you another thing too. So this is from my account. Hold on. kind of show you guys. So this is the beginning. So this is like around 4:00, a little bit before 4:00. The game was at 7, by the way, and the student entrance for this, the student entrance. This is a line for the student entrance, and there's already a quarter down the ramp. It was already a quarter down the ramp, and as I'm walking up, I mean, it was a pretty fantastic scene. I mean, it's a pretty long line. Let me kind of skip a little bit faster. So, I mean, look at all these students, man. If you're looking at this on YouTube, if you listen to this on Spotify, you can see it's on my Twitter at Chachere Grant, or just look up Grant Chachere on Twitter and see the video. And as you get to the end, that's where the students got rowdy. And actually, 3 minutes after I left, they're all chanting "Free Kayshon, Free Kayshon," and it was a pretty cool scene. But then I'm also going to show you guys this. This is also right before the game. This is about 3:45, as it says right here. This is a little 3 hours and 50 minutes before the game, and there's already a solid bit of people out in the front. It may not look a lot, but this is 3 hours before the game. There's about 100 to 200 people already there. Let me show you guys this too. So this is the set for college game day. They're getting everything set up. I was able to take a picture of that, and the picture showed you guys earlier. That was also on 45/7's media account. So, yeah, just kind of give you guys an idea how that looked. But if you want to see the impact that Kim Mulkey brought, so you know how I said the student entrance is quarter full? Well, before the game, they had to start telling students in the line that you have to leave because the student section is already filled up. And so what some people did was they actually stayed outside and watched the game. They put up blankets, and I'll show you guys that in a second. I'll show you guys for anybody if you're listening to Spotify. It's also on my Twitter. I actually quote tweeted this, so you'll be able to find it. But this is from Patricia Caputo. She's actually a good friend of mine. She is a reporter for Diker TV for LSU. And this is students right outside that game. This is her and her friends. They're actually watching the game outside. And that just shows you kind of how much people care about LSU women's basketball. Of course, it's because of the success that Kim Mulkey's had. I mean, they won the Natty last year, but LSU fans in general will support any sport that's successful. And if they're really good, they'll do this where they'll actually camp outside and watch the game. So it was a pretty cool thing that what's going on at LSU women's basketball. But, after the game, Don Staley and Kim Mulkey had a lot of great things to say about the atmosphere, to tell all the attention that women's basketball is getting in general. I know Don Staley said some comments about the gatekeepers. So she's praising the people that the gatekeepers, including a guy. She didn't remember the name, and I have to look it up, the guy's name. But there's a certain executive at ESPN that's been really promoting women's basketball, both college and WNBA, and that's part of the reason why you're seeing a surge in viewership or a surge in interest and viewership in women's basketball in general, especially the college basketball level. Right now, I'm not even joking. This is the first time in my life where I can name more women's basketball players than men's basketball players, and a lot of that has to do with the lack of star power in the men's college basketball game right now, compared to recent other years. But that also shows you how much viewership that women's basketball game, where we know who Caitlin Clark is, we know who Angel Reese is, we know who Camila Cardozo is, we know who Haley Van Lith is. Think of all these different players that we can name. And just it's incredible. It's incredible how much the women's game has really grown. But honestly, my favorite thing about the game was after the game at the post game press conferences. Like Kim Mulkey and Dawn Staley are basically the same person. That's funny. Dawn Staley, of course, is she's from Philly. She's a strong, independent Black woman. She's awesome, and she's not afraid to call out anybody. And Kim Mulkey is the same way. Kim Mulkey is a straight up country girl from Tickfaw, Louisiana, which is about an hour from Baton Rouge, and she doesn't take anything from anybody. I mean, they're both the same person. There's a reason why both South Carolina, but when both coaches took over their programs, Dawn Staley at South Carolina and Kim Mulkey at LSU, they weren't good programs at the time. South Carolina was an afterthought in women's college basketball, and so was LSU. When Mulkey took over at LSU, I mean, the year before, I think they were like last place in the SEC or like second to last in the SEC. And in 2 years at LSU, she takes them to the national championship game. Well, she wins the national championship, and then at Dawn Staley, when she took over, and I believe it was 2009, 2010, and then 6 years later, they won the national championship, and now they're pretty much, I would say they're the gold standard for women's college basketball right now. They kind of took that mantle from UConn, which is pretty incredible considering that UConn is the most successful women's college basketball program ever. In terms of like all the success, like they're all in the national championships they've won, and they also hold the most for both men's and women's. They hold the record for the most consecutive victories. So it's a pretty incredible to see what both coaches have done. To see them after the post-game press conference, it was unreal. Those are two legends in the game, man. So you got, sometimes you can't really take that for granted. I mean, how many times will you ever be, as a sports journalist, will you be able to cover those types of games with those coaches on the sidelines, with those atmospheres? That was incredible. But moving on to the men's. LSU, that first part of the game, it looked like they're going to pull away, but they just kept making mistakes after mistakes. That was a very winnable game for LSU. That's a pretty good Georgia team too. I think Georgia's going to make the tournament. But that was a game that's a could have, would have, should have type of game. They should have won. LSU shot 38.6% for the field. But they guess what? And on layups, get this, guys. They only made 7 of their 22 layup attempts. That's 31.8% on layups. But the craziest thing is they shot 43.5% from 3. So they were excellent from shooting at a shot of a higher difficulty than a simple layup. That just shows you how that game went. Jalen Cook had 21 points, 3 assists, 3 rebounds, and 4 steals. Jordan Wright had 18 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and a block. Those two were the reason why LSU was in the game. And at one point, LSU, near the end of the game, LSU was down 65-57 with just over 3 minutes, just under 3 minutes to go in the game. And LSU went on a crazy run. They went on a 9-0 run. And and that ended with a Jalen Cook go ahead and 1 layup, and he made and then he made their free throw for them to be in the lead with 17.2 seconds left to go in the game. And LSU was holding a strong defense. Georgia looked confused. They looked flustered. They put up a desperation 3-point attempt. It missed. And LSU had a great chance to get the rebound because 3 guys were running around the rim. But then Russell Chiwe grabbed it and just get in front of him, grabbed the rebound, put it in, and the and one. And they put Georgia in lead. Chiwe finished with 11 points and 11 rebounds, a double-double. And that basically sealed the game for LSU, for Georgia at least. And Georgia was in the lead 68-66. Jalen Reed threw a beautiful heave to Jordan Wright in the corner of for a corner 3. Jordan Wright somehow turns it around, fades it away, shoots it, and it just rims out. I mean, that would have been on the SC top 10 for the next morning. I mean, what an incredible. I mean, it was, if it went in, that would have been one of the best shots I've ever seen. But it grims out. LSU loses 68-66. That was a must win for LSU, in my opinion, if they need to make the tournament, if they wanted to make the tournament, because the next game is against Alabama at Coleman Coliseum. And LSU doesn't play well at Coleman Coliseum. The last time they played at Coleman Coliseum, Alabama blew them out the doors. I mean, it was embarrassing. So, and LSU, and like, that's a weird thing. LSU hasn't beat a one in Coleman Coliseum since like 2018 or 2019, because they just generally don't play well there. So that's another tough road matchup for LSU, which is why that they need to win that Georgia matchup, because you at least want to come out this weekend, at least winning one of those games, and you had one and you blew it. But I think LSU, I think LSU is much more improved than they were last year. But they still have a lot of work to do, and they're still a relatively young team. So I'm very excited to see where this program's headed. But again, you should have won that game. I mean, if you win that game, I mean, they're in a much better position to make the tournament than you are now. But moving on to probably one of the funniest saddest yet funniest stories of the week. Kayshon Boutte was arrested for illegal gambling. The reason why he was arrested for illegal gambling is because a lot of it was he was underage, and also was using the lies. But I'm going to share this with you guys just to kind of give you a better understanding what's going on. So this is from Slade Nagle of LSU Country. I know him pretty well. He's a good guy, but and he does a great job. But kind of the details, he placed nearly 9,000 bets, which is about 22 per day. And 70 of those were on NCAA games. 6 of those were on LSU football, and he used an Elias to place bets while underage, and the charges were felony computer fraud and underage gambling. But the funniest thing about all these bets were all of them were actually placed while he was playing at LSU. So, and 6 of those were while he was literally playing a football game at LSU. And and I'm going to show this another tweet too. So this is from Chad Graff, who's the New England Patriots beat writer for The Athletic, and like to show you the kind of the lies he used while placing more than 8,900 bets while underage, including some on his LSU football team. He used accounts with the username Kayshon Boutte 7 and Kayshon Boutte 01, according to the affidavit. So like he even come up with a fake Elias. He used his own damn name. It's like, and including Kayshon Boutte 7. So it's like, dude, how stupid are you? Big dog, what are you doing? And it's just like, dude, and like and honestly, one of the funniest things I saw was that Kayshon Boutte actually bet on the Florida State game for him to get the over, which is like 82.5 yards, and for him to score a touchdown. It was a parlay. And a lot of people were saying, well, that's the reason why Kayshon was looking so pouty, is because he lost his own damn parlay. So like, it's just like, dude, like, how you lose the parlay? How are you gonna bet on yourself and then also not succeed on your bet? It's just, oh my god, dude. Like, Kayshon was just a drama, bro. Kayshon was just drama waiting to happen this whole entire last year at LSU, man. I mean, there's always something with him. I mean, my God. And I'm also gonna show you this too. This is from another post I saw. So Kayshon made a lot of money, dude. I mean, Barstool might as well hire him to be a part of like a game, like a sportsbook analyst or something, because during 2022 and 2023, he deposited a total of $132,147 and 53 cents to his account, and he won over $550,000. but used most of the money to make additional bets. So and he withdrew 50,000 from his account. So I mean, he made a lot of money making bets, a lot of money. Which means, and like honestly, the amount of money he made less people know that he was actually pretty successful with this bet. So yeah, he was pretty successful with his bets, but he also probably landed. I don't think he's going to be in jail or anything like that. I think it might be a huge fine. But I mean, like, damn, dude, like, like, wow, at LSU, and I think this should be a lesson for any student athlete at any university around the country. I mean, this is the things. Kayshon Boutte, people have to realize, was an All-American receiver. Now his last year LSU, he didn't really perform well, but going into the year, he was an All-American receiver. He's a AP preseason All-American. So it doesn't matter who you are. Eventually, you're going to get busted. And you're seeing that with Kayshon Boutte now. His career might be over in the NFL, to be honest with you. I mean, it's done. It's a wrap. I mean, the Patriots probably might be cutting him pretty soon because he was pretty inexpensive for the Patriots. But then also you're just hearing some other stories about college athletes getting busted for gambling. Like, just put this in perspective. From what I know about NCAA rules, if it's an NCAA sanctioned sport, no matter if it's football or boxing, all right? If you make a bet, it doesn't matter if it's at the collegiate level or the professional level, that's considered against the rules of NCAA. Now, Kayshon broke the law, which is a little bit different, but this is kind of a forewarning for anybody who's playing collegiate sports. Do not bet because you're probably not going to get arrested for it, but you are probably going to be kicked off your team because you gambled. So they're going. I mean, they track this stuff, man, guys. They do. So this is just a forewarning of what not to do when you're playing collegiate sports at any level, whether it's D1 or D3. But moving on to the last topic is LSU hiring Slade Nagle as the special teams coordinator and the tight ends coach. Slade Nagle was originally the tight ends coach at Tulane. This past season, he served as the offensive coordinator at Tulane, and he was there from 2016 to 2023. He actually assumed play calling duties, actually for the Cotton Bowl where Tulane won against USC 45-41, I believe was the score, or like 46-41, something like that. And he assumed play calling duties for that game. And they did pretty successful, and that's why he was able to become the offensive coordinator the next following year. But he's one of the best young coaches right now. He's been around the state forever. I mean, he's been around this. Not only has he been around, he's been in the state forever. I mean, he also coached at McNeese from 2012 to 2015. So he's been been in the state for the last 10 to 15 years. But he also is from Lake Charles. He's a Lake Charles native. His dad, Johnny Nagle, is a longtime coach. He's coached for many years at both the high school and collegiate levels in the state of Louisiana. I mean, he is a Louisiana guy. So that adds to another list of, and this is what my main point about the Slade Nagle hires. Not only is he one of the best young coaches in college football right now, but I think I said this before a previous podcast, but every single guy on LSU staff right now is either from Louisiana, played at LSU, or played somewhere in Louisiana, or coached in Louisiana. I think that's becoming a very clear theme for Brian Kelly, that he is trying to lock down this state. Right now, LSU has the number one class for recruiting class for the class of 2025. And then also, if you look at the talent around the state, it's increasing. You're seeing now in, like, for example, positions like quarterbacks and offensive linemen. Louisiana hasn't really produced much for most of its history. But in recent years, you've seen an uptick in quarterbacks and offensive line in the state. And I think that shows a lot about how much the development of high school players in the state has grown. Quarterbacks and offensive linemen were afterthoughts to say Louisiana. Now everyone wants Louisiana quarterbacks and offensive linemen. But then also, in the class of 2026, according to On3, let me actually pull this up for you guys. So according to On3, LSU, to say Louisiana has 3 players in the top 5 for the class of 2026. One of them is Jakeem Stewart, who is from St. Aug in New Orleans. He is the number 1 overall recruit. So let me pull this up for you guys right here. I got it actually pulled up right now. And blank. So here you go. Jakeem Stewart, defensive lineman, 6'6", 280 from St. Augustine. He right now it says it's leaning towards Alabama, but I think LSU has an uptick because of Nick Saban. Nick Saban, of course, retired, but then also his main recruiter, Brad Davis from Louisiana. I mean, this whole staff's from Louisiana, and they can all relate to him. Also, Frank Wilson, the recruiting coordinator, is a St. Aug alum. So I think, right, even though this is Alabama right now, I think LSU's on the way ups. But then you go down here, Blaine Bradford from Catholic. I know him pretty well. I got the chance to know him this past year. I mean, he's a great kid. I mean, even though it says 4 stars right now, all these guys are going to be 5 stars. I mean, right now they're juniors, and sites like these don't really like to boost up guys to 5 stars until they're seniors. But Blaine Bradford is going to be a 5-star. He's the number 1 safety in the country. Lamar Brown from U-High, University Lab, or U-High as it's known down in Louisiana. He is the number 1 interior offensive lineman in the country. And he goes – and U-High, by the way, is right on LSU's campus. It is literally on LSU's campus. So there should be no reason why LSU should lose him. And then also, I remember talking to a couple people who are close to the U-High program, and they said that Lamar Brown was really leaning towards Alabama. But since Nick Saban retired, and he even reacted on Twitter, I mean, he was shocked by it. LSU is clearly in the lead. So it's a pretty big deal that, it's a pretty big deal that he's leaning towards LSU. I mean, 3 of the top 5 are in the state of Louisiana. I mean, Brian Kelly's gonna have a field day, and then also Aiden Hall, who's rising up in the rankings. He is the number 5 safety in the country. I mean, Louisiana's Brian Kelly's gonna have a field day, and so will his staff: Frank Wilson, Brad Davis, Chip Sloan. I mean, oh man, that's awesome. If you're an LSU fan, you're associated with LSU, whether you're a coach, whether you're an administrator, I mean, or, you're just from the state of Louisiana in general. Even if you're not LSU fan, I mean, you have to be really impressed of how much the development in the state has grown in terms of players, quarterbacks, offensive linemen. Obviously, Louisiana's always had receivers and DBs, but now you're seeing every position elevate itself, and that says a lot about, all the different high school coaches around the state and how they've grown high school football in Louisiana. Now, Louisiana's always been a great state for high school prospects. I mean, I think in terms of we produce the 6th most NFL and I think in terms of the NFL, all the NFL players right now, LSU is the 6th per capita in terms of NFL players that are in the NFL right now. So that's behind California, Texas, Florida. I mean, the states that have a much bigger population than Louisiana. So imagine if Louisiana had the populations of like a Texas or California or Florida. I mean, how much would that per capita be? I mean, that's pretty insane. So that will wrap it up for the show today. Tomorrow we'll be having a special episode. I'll have Alex Dane, Jake McKeever of College Baseball Central. We'll talk a lot about LSU baseball around the state, baseball, also about baseball on the SEC and at the national level. It's going to be a pretty good show, guys. Hope you tune in. But anyways, Grant Chachere, your host. I'll see y'all tomorrow.